And at TGIF, everyone, welcome into the First Call podcast. He's Jeff Siegel. I'm Jeremy Plonk, representing First Bet and Express Bet. We handicap 8 stakes races every Friday to help you out for your weekend handicapping. One of 2 podcasts we do here on the network, a Horse Card Tuesday show. It's official. More of a recap, but this is our handicapping podcast. Be sure to like and share this out on your social media channels and get involved in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. Help build the audience here for the podcast. Jeff, it is Jim Dandy week at Saratoga, week 3 at the Spa, week 2 at Del Mar. Del Mar kicked off week 2 with a pick 6 carryover yesterday. I went 3 for 6 in the pick 6, so these things aren't easy. Hopefully we can do a little bit better on the handicapping for the weekend.
It's been challenging at Del Mar, and not only it's because the track is playing different this year than it has in the last 3 decades, whereas inside speed has returned and dominated so far. Whether or not that continues, it could change on a heartbeat, I guess. And the other thing is big fields. It just goes to show you what big fields will do. The wagering has been very strong, difficult, but I'd rather have that than 5 4-horse runners with
sure
trying to pull teeth to get a 7-5 shot you like. So it's good there. And Saratoga, as long as the weather's good, they've had good racing as well. So we'll be looking at Del Mar and Saratoga, but there's some other good racing. Woodbine's got a couple of good stakes races. Monmouth Oaks this weekend as well. So hopefully we can make some money.
This is the second weekend where we'll have Saratoga and Del Mar both running together, and that means it's week 2 of the Fun in the Sun handicapping tournament. $100 handicapping tournament, $25 entry fee. It's 10 $10 bets in the pari-mutuel pools. Last 5 races at Saratoga, first 5 races at Del Mar, each and every Saturday. Top 5 each week qualify for the final table coming up on Labor Day weekend. For Saratoga and Del Mar. So handicap each Saturday of the Saratoga and Del Mar meet. Play the tournament, Fun in the Sun with Express Bet, and you could win weekly prizes as well as your shot at the $10,000 added final table coming up in September. Week 1 results from Fun in the Sun. Congrats in order to Lyle Nordby. Lyle topped all players. $1,375 in his pocket for the weekly prize. So congrats to Lyle. Top 5 finishers again made the final table. They include Barry Hill, Bob Ray, George Smith, and John Alders. So congrats to those 5 gentlemen qualifying for the Fun in the Sun final table in week 1. Week 2 of the contest resumes this Saturday. Be sure to check it out. expressbet.com/tournaments to get all the information and to register. Let's take a look at the 8 stakes races that Jeff and I will handicap coming up on Saturday. For benefit of those of you on our traditional audio channels, here's the list. At Woodbine, we'll start off with the Ontario Colleen Stakes, and then we'll take the older horses in the Seagram Cup. So 2 from Woodbine on Saturday. To Monmouth we go, as Jeff mentioned, for the Monmouth Park Oaks, grade 3, 3-year-old fillies there. We'll take a look at that one. To Saratoga for their dual stakes features on Saturday. The Alfred Vanderbilt for the sprinters on the main track, and then the Jim Dandy for the 3-year-olds prepping towards the Travers Stakes. At Del Mar, a trio of stakes races on the Saturday card. The Daisy Cutter for the Distaff Turf Sprinters. The San Diego, a prep for the Pacific Classic for the older Classic division. And the Bing Crosby, grade 1, winning you're in for the Breeders' Cup Sprint. So a huge day at Del Mar coming up on Saturday. If you like to play breeds other than thoroughbreds, we've got you covered at First Bet and Express Bet this weekend as well. On Saturday at the Meadows in Greater Pittsburgh, it's the Adios Stakes, big stakes day card there. Alsa Magli will have your handicapping blog set for you at expressbet.com. Be sure to check those out over the weekend. And AQHA players, Retama Park in Greater San Antonio. We're proud to sponsor the First Bet Retama Park Derby. So check out top 3-year-olds going in that one Saturday night at Retama Park. Again, you can play those races with First Bet and Express Bet. We've got a $10 money back special for some races Friday and Saturday stakes races at Retama Park. So check that out. And then on Sunday, I'm going to be hitting the road, taking my dad down to Laurel Park to see the DeFrancis Dash. So we're going to check that out. That's our Express Bet race of the week. You can get my analysis on the website or in your email inbox with expressbet.com. Also sign up for Substack. I send out that race of the week analysis, jeremy.plunk at Substack, and you can get those sent directly to your email inbox as well. So, Jeff, we've got a lot of handicapping to get to this weekend. Let's start north of the border. Go to Woodbine for the Ontario Colleen Stakes. Grade 3, 1 mile on the turf. It's a 1-turn mile turf race at Woodbine in this configuration. 3 horses coming north of the border from the U.S., but the field, 3 Mark Cassies, 3 Kevin Attards. You got Chad, you got Roger Atfield, you got Josie Carroll. All the big names are in this one. It's a pretty good field.
It is. It's a group of the fillies that have faced each other, many of them, and have been taking turns. Um, I'm going to go with a price here, 10-1,
Nice.
a number 4, Tripolina. We have not seen her since last November. I think it's a positive that they bring her back in a stakes race. That tells me that they think she's as good as she was last year when she was a stakes winner as a 2-year-old and did so on the all-weather. Now she's trying grass for the first time, but she won her debut, so we know she can run well fresh. She came out of a maiden race and won a stakes race, and then was second at 3-5 or 4-5 in the Mazarine, 2 turning. But she comes back on a 1-turn mile. And if she can duplicate her form as a 2-year-old and can handle the grass, she's better than 10-1. I mean, she is and she has a perfect style for a 1-turn mile because she likes to settle back and blast home, as she did when she won the display last year at 7 furlongs. So the work tab looks very healthy. I think she's going to fire. If she comes back at least as good, maybe a little better than she was last year, I think she's got a chance to pull off an upset.
She's one of 3 Kevin Attard trainees in this field. I like layoff horses in turf miles. People would know my cadence. He happened at Keeneland in the spring. I love horses coming off a break. I think a turf mile is a very achievable distance for a horse coming off the break. You don't have to be super fit. You got to fire a good 3 furlongs. And these races typically quicken to the wire. We'll see if Tripolina can do it like she did last year in the display at that 1-turn trip going 7-8.
Making ground, break the spell. On the outside, it's 2 Ghosts trying to get by Magic Slips and Western Will, and Tripolina, a line of 4, 2 Ghosts in front. On the outside, Tripolina coming. Tripolina finishing the best. Tripolina's race past 2 Ghosts, and from here on in, it's a matter of how far. And the display stakes to Tripolina. Wins well. Make it 3, 2 Ghosts second. Break the spell in a show photo. On
So like we said, she's one of 3 for Kevin Attard. Mark Casse counters with 3 of his own. Casse's only won this race, the Ontario Colleen, 5 of the last 7 years. So if you're looking for a Mark Casse trainee, he's got Witwatersrand in this spot, Time to Dazzle. He's also got one in here named Craval de Oro. So it looks like Witwatersrand probably the strongest of those Casse trainees. But this filly hasn't come back at 3 as good as she was as a 2-year-old. One in here, too, I want to mention, Ready for Cheryl, an impressive debut winner at Keeneland for Roger Adfield. This one's got, blue-blooded pedigree, just a blue hen mare there, perfect Cheryl, by more than ready. And she got back on the beam going back to the turf last time. She's 2 for 2 on the turf. The only time she's been beaten was the one try on the synthetic when she ran second at Woodbine sprinting. So Ready for Cheryl, certainly one to watch in here, post 11 in a deep edition of the Ontario Colleen. We talked about all those fillies, and we didn't even mention Chad Brown's filly Grecian Goddess in there. So it's a pretty darn good field. To the ninth we go next. It's the Seagram Cup. And Jeff, this is really a matchup of what we saw in the Dominion Day Stakes back a couple weeks ago. The 1, 2, 3, 4 finishers are all back in here, including the winner of the Dominion Day, who was last year's King's Plate winner. So the top Ontario bred, Canadian bred horse, Paramount Prince. He seems to be in just as good a form as he was last year at 3. He's won 2 of 3 this year as a 4-year-old. Do you see it as Paramount Prince repeating or somebody else?
I tried to beat him. I looked long and hard to find something that could beat him. He just won. He's drawn outside, not terribly ideal, but good tactical speed. Not a lot of speed drawn inside him. And I ended up saying, he just won. He's King's Plate winner, obviously 4-time winner at Woodbine. Very high quality horse. I couldn't find anything to beat him. I mean, I'm not saying he's a great gamble at 2-1, but there's just nothing in here that should beat him if he shows up. I don't know why he wouldn't show up. He won his last race very nicely. He's a versatile horse and got the right style. Always, he can go to the front if nobody goes, and if he does that, you won't catch him. But he can stalk, pounce, and go as well. And a repeat of his last race would be good enough. He's not picking up any weight, no issue there. Right. I don't see any reason why Paramount Prince won't win again.
You got Money Supply coming north of the border for Joe Sharp, a fresh face. Safi Joseph has 2 in the race, including Public Sector and County Final. Both have already had a start, though, at Woodbine for those connections. But if Paramount Prince stays on form, he's going to be awfully tough to beat based off his last win in the Dominion Day.
Skyro, Wicked Django's finishing pretty well around the outside for Kevin Nichols as they turn and going for home in the Dominion Day. And Patrick Husbands lets loose, and Paramount Prince is 4 in front. Right down the outside, Wicked Django finishing on with Stanley House and Tyson. And Paramount Prince is coming down towards the wire with a dominant win in the Dominion Day Stakes. What a marvelous horse. Paramount Prince by 4 lengths to Stanley House.
That's a look at the 2 stakes from Woodbine on Saturday. Let's go to Monmouth for the Monmouth Park Oaks. They're a week in the rearview mirror from their big racing day at the Jersey Shore. Of course, it was Haskell last week. Monmouth Oaks, 3-year-old fillies in the spotlight this time. Among the field, and here is Gunsong, Jeff. We saw her win the Black-Eyed Susan, but then came back in the Acorn and really didn't follow up that Black-Eyed Susan effort. She could go either direction in this particular spot. How do you see Gunsong? She's the 2-1 morning line favorite in here. There's some to like and there's some not to like with her. She's a tough read.
She's up and down, really. I mean, she's run some good races. She's followed the good races up with a bad race. But the good news for her is that she's due for the good one now. You know how that works? Back and forth, back and forth.
Right.
Poor run on the Acorn, a very difficult race at Saratoga. She's had some a little bit of time off now, so she could bounce back for sure. And on numbers, she's fast enough to win. I understand why she'd be the favorite. I'm not sure I would take 2-1 on her. I'm looking a little bit different direction here. Number 2, Chilled. This is a frosted filly. Now, normally, when you break your maiden, you don't come back in a stake. But in her case, the number that she earned in the maiden win was strong. It puts her right there with these. And this day and age, unlike when I was growing up, when you would never see a horse come out of a maiden race into a stake. Now, guys look at the numbers, whether it's the sheets or whatever you're looking at, and if they find that their horse fits, then they're not shy about trying it. And but sometimes the horse gets a big figure, and they do it with a very soft trip. Either they're sitting second or out, they pick up dead horses, or a pace meltdown happens, or they get loose in the lead, and you don't really believe it. But I watched Chill's maiden win at Churchill. Now, granted, it was her 6th start, and she finally broke her maiden. But visually, she looked for real. I'm telling you, this was no phony race. I mean, she sat off the pace. She was in a pocket. She, drove through between horses with authority. She drew off for fun. Beautiful mover. If you ride frosted, you're probably going to get better with age, as he did. So I don't see no reason why Chilled, if she continues to improve, or maybe doesn't even have to improve, just run back to the maiden race. She's right there with these. Good inside draw, going to get a good trip. Bullet Breeze, since raced, training at Keeneland. I think Chill's got an excellent chance to pull off a mild surprise here.
Let's go back to her win. Trainer Vicky Oliver had Gerardo Corrales up that day. She'll have Joe Bravo with the assignment at Monmouth. Jersey Joe, let's see Chilled at Churchill win by 8 lengths, drawing off.
It's Carrara and Not Guilty. They're off the turn. Some crowding there at the top, and it's Chilled in between, who is in quite tight, but nonetheless comes charging on through and takes the lead and spurts away. Chilled by 3. Genetics is wandering about the track. Carrara's coming from the outside. Sustancia hanging tough toward the rail, but it's all Chilled. Chilled with a dazzling effort wins by 7.
Another one to mention in here, Jeff, is Scalable. Todd Pletcher trains. He's a 5-time winner of the Monmouth Oaks, most all-time amongst any trainer. He goes to Paco Lopez, top rider there at Monmouth Park. But when I think Paco Lopez and a horse on the rail, I want speed, right? I mean, you expect him to be right up in the mix. Scalable has none of that. She's always been a closer who gallops out well after the race. She teases you that she's going to do something big at some point in her career, and she just hasn't done it yet. She does come off an allowance win at Churchill last time when she was able to get up in the final jumps. The track at Monmouth typically doesn't play to the closers. I don't know if this is a great fit in terms of rider style and horses style with Paco Lopez. I'm going to be against Scalable in here, but you got to respect her form, and you got to respect Pletcher in this spot.
Well, I mean, she's another example of a big maiden winner who comes right back and runs in a grade 2 in her next start. She did that earlier this year in the winter at Gulfstream Park, and finally got back to her winning form in the allowance race that you mentioned. But you're right. She doesn't really have a lot of tactical speed, and they could try to change her style and take advantage of the rail. I'm not sure she wants that, though. And it's 4-1. I'd probably, look elsewhere. But I'm going to try Chilled, and I understand if Gunsong shows up with her Black-Eyed Susan type of effort, then she'll be tough to beat as well.
Little Jamie on the outside here in the Monmouth Oaks. She comes out of the Indiana Oaks, solid fractions in that, and she ran a determined dueling second all the way around the track in there to Chattelist. But those were good splits: 23-3, 47-2, 111-1, and still kept going. So little Jamie won the watch in here as well. Pretty competitive race, and Jeff's going with a horse who's going to get us a price, maybe chilled 9-2 in the morning line. Could be a double-digit winner there at Monmouth. Let's shift now to Saratoga, where a couple of stakes races have serious implications. We've got the Grade 1 Vanderbilt, big sprint day. Breeders' Cup Sprint Division going to have a huge weekend. Not only the Vanderbilt at Saratoga, but the Bing Crosby at Del Mar, the DeFrancis Dash at Laurel. So a huge weekend for the Breeders' Cup Sprint Division. The first of those that we'll talk about is the Vanderbilt at Saratoga, co-featured on the card with the Jim Dandy. The Vanderbilt goes as race number 6, Jeff. It is 6 furlongs, handicap division here, handicap conditions. The spread just 6 pounds, 117-123. Nobody got it piled on. Skelly's got a great record, right? He's 10 for 16, but he doesn't have a lot of big graded wins. So in terms of a handicap, they didn't pile it on him in here. 123 seems, probably representative, because as good as he's been, he's just, quote unquote, just a Grade 3 winner. But they don't beat him often. This horse gets to the wire first.
Well, he beat himself last time out. Didn't break. In fact, that's 2 races in a row that he really didn't leave cleanly at all. Mm-hmm. Broke last in his most recent start. Rushed up 21-3, 44 flat. Got tagged late by a nice horse who's running out here in California in the Bing Crosby. Right. So we'll see how that form holds up. But I like Skelly. Maybe he'll load last and break first here. And if you look at the others in here, there are horses that like to lay close up, but there are no bust them out there and open up and 21-1, 21-2 type horses. And if he leaves, he's just going to sail to the lead. I mean, he's without actually having to be sent. There's some very nice horses behind him. Baby Yoda, of course, a Saratoga specialist. Subrogate is on the rise. 106 buyer number makes him a Breeders' Cup type of horse potentially. A few others in here that are good enough on their best day. So I just hope that Skelly leaves cleanly. And sometimes when you get a horse like this who's had a lot of starts and is getting up in age, sometimes they just can't get going. Sometimes it's a back issue or hind leg issue. They don't push off as well. If he doesn't break today, that's a really serious sign. But if he breaks, I can't imagine him opening up and just wiring the field if he's anywhere close to his best race.
That's interesting. I like the way that you mentioned load last, break first, in just a 6-horse field like this, so he can be outside. So if he's had some trouble getting out of the gate, the last thing you want is a field to kind of come hammering down on you and things like that if you're drawn to the inside. And also, you don't want to stand at the gate too long if you've been a horse who's had trouble getting out of there. So, yeah, last to load, outside in a short field to 6. This is every opportunity for him to make amends for that loss last time, right? There are no excuses in this kind of particular scenario. The competition, that could be the excuse, obviously, or that could be the reason, I should say, if he gets beaten in here. Because Baby Yoda, you mentioned Saratoga specialist, 4 for 6 at Saratoga. The rest of the field has 3 combined starts at the spa. So, I mean, the home field edge definitely lies with Baby Yoda, and was just super impressive here during the Belmont Stakes Festival and winning the True North by 6. A widening lengths. This is a tougher field, no question, that True North was, but Baby Yoda certainly loves it at Saratoga. Nakatomi has a win over the track. Look, this is a quality colt on the rail for Wesley Ward. Also, since the second in the Group 1, Dubai Golden Shaheen was 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Sprint last year. We think Elite Power, Gunite. You forget that it was Nakatomi beating just 2 lengths in that race. So, if he's back and ready to go off the March layoff and the trip to Dubai and back, he could fire fresh in here working at Keeneland for Wesley Ward. So you got Nakatomi, you got Baby Yoda, you got Skelly, you got the up-and-comer Subrogate coming off that massive buyer for Jorge Duarte and Colts Next Stable last time out at Aqueduct. So good addition of the Alfred Vanderbilt, race number 6, just a field of 6, but it's a good one. We'll see if Skelly can get that Grade 1 victory on his resume, first time running in Grade 1 company. We've got another, field of 6 to talk about in the Jim Dandy Stakes. That's race number 10 at Saratoga on Saturday. The Grade 2 Jim Dandy, 9 furlongs, prep towards the 1 mile and a quarter Travers Stakes coming up in about a month's time. Last week, they ran the Haskell, and the 1-2 finishers of the Belmont Stakes came back and ran 1-2 again. Of course, those being Dornock and Mindframe. third place finisher in the Belmont Stakes, gets his chance to say what he'll do in the second half of the season in Sierra Leone. He is the favorite for David Aragona's morning line for Naira at even money odds. Jeff, let's talk first about Sierra Leone and what you expect of him Saturday in the Jim Dandy.
Basically, I expect to see what we always get from him, and that is a strong late kick. And then somehow, some way, he has to overcome self-caused trouble. He seems to find it. But in a small field like this, in a race that promises to have, at worst, a decent pace, and maybe at best a faster than decent.
Yeah.
In a small field, he really should have. You talk about no excuses. He should have none. He's going to drop back, and unfortunately, he drew the rail, which isn't not going to be a bad thing. But if you draw the rail, you'd like to have enough tactical speed to get up in there and save ground in the second flight. I don't think Sierra Leone. I don't think you want to use him at all the first part. Don't mess with him. Just let him drop back, and at least when you commence your rally on the far turn, you'll have plenty of room to do it theoretically. Right. If he gets in trouble in this race, then I give up.
Yeah.
But he's going to be tough because of the pace scenario. Then you've got the tough to figure, at least for me, Fierceness, who's drawn outside. Now I can tell you that Pony Express is going to go, but Batten Down will likely go, although I think Pony Express will be more committed to go than Batten Down. So those two will hook up or maybe not hook up. I don't think Seize the Gray wants to be waiting around for anybody. So Fierceness has the opportunity here from his outside draw, and that's Johnny V, to just drop over, sit there, and then kick on and move when he wants to move with nobody on the outside of him. And he's training like he trained before the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and before the Gulfstream Park or the Florida Derby race. So again, you never know what you're going to get with Fierceness, but I have a hunch today is going to be, or this race is going to be one of his good ones. Now, he did break his maiden at Saratoga over an off track last year, but at least he won at Saratoga. And again, if he's ever going to, enough of the excuses. He has a blackboard race for him. It's all set up perfectly. He'll cooperate. He doesn't get rank. And I'm thinking that Fierceness is going to show up. Or not.
When he ran terrible Champagne, he came back and won the Juvenile. So we've seen this bounce back before. He's trying to bounce back from a 15th place finish in the Kentucky Derby. We haven't seen him since the first Saturday in May, but we've seen him at 3 improve off of his 2-year-old form, and that came back in the Florida Derby.
You're at the rail, but they all have too much to do. Fierceness is putting on a show in Hallandale today. Fierceness, the real Fierceness, has showed up to South Florida, and he's crushing them in the Florida Derby. Fierceness geared down, and on his way to Louisville, Fierceness authoritatively in the Florida Derby. He never had a threat.
148-1 that day. You could say there wasn't much behind it, but he ran 148-1, and we've seen enough races at 1 1/8 since then, including the Haskell last week. There's a lot of 150 and changes, 151s being thrown up by this 3-year-old class. So Fierceness could throw a 148 on the board here at Saratoga on Saturday in the Jim Dandy if the real deal, as Pete Aiello said, shows up. We just don't know which one we're going to get, but the way he's training, I thought he trained spectacularly in the work before the Kentucky Derby, and then his gallops before the Derby, people started to say, he's not looking good, that sort of thing like that. So he's a day-to-day, right? I guess the old injury report, right? We're all day-to-day. He's day-to-day in terms of what we think that he might do. But look, you've got the right guys and the connections. Todd Pletcher's won the Jim Dandy 7 times. Nobody else has won it more than 3. Mott and Asmussen each have won it 3. John Velasquez is a 4-time winner of the Jim Dandy, tied with Jerry Bailey and Eddie Maple. He could have the record all to himself. I hope Fierceness runs his big race. I hope Sierra Leone runs his race, and I hope we get a hell of a stretch tool, because I think there's a real table setting here, right? With Seize the Gray, Batten Down, Pony Express. You've got 3 horses in a row who all made the lead last time out. They could set a really nice table, and hopefully we get one of those signature showdowns to actually materialize, because if we do, this could be the race of the year in the 3-year-old division at this point, right? A big effort from Fierceness and a big effort from Sierra Leone is kind of what we've all been waiting on since March.
Yeah, and obviously leading into the Travers, we'd like to see somebody step forward. That division is still sort of open, available for taking, really.
Yeah.
Dornock obviously has got a head start, but he's going to run in the Travers. He beat him there. then you got your resume looking pretty good. So
Yeah.
very important race. Got to get Fierceness back into his form. And if he shows up and the table is set for him, as you mentioned, it's just the perfect spot for her to be in. He's got to deliver. No excuses. Couldn't have had a better setup for him. And it's his race to win if he runs back to the race that we just saw, the Florida Derby.
And we mentioned last week, Dornoch became the first 3-year-old on dirt to win 2 Grade 1s. Of course, the Belmont and the Haskell. 2 horses in this race have an opportunity. I think I misspoke on the Tuesday show because I forgot that the Grade 1 win, of course, by Sierra Leone in the Bluegrass puts him in that same spot as Fierceness, as one-time Grade 1 winners looking for that second Grade 1 win, and they can match Dornoch's total and be right up at the head of the class. Let's go to Del Mar on Saturday for a trio of stakes races there. We've got the Daisy Cutter for the Distaff Turf Sprinters, the San Diego in the Classic Division, and the Big and Crosby, a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Let's start with the Turf Sprinters in the Filly and Mare Division. Jeff, it's race number 7 on the card. 5/8 of a mile on the Turf Sprints at Del Mar. Daisy Cutter, $100,000 event in here. Last year, it was Amy C. winning for Phil D'Amato, and I know you like Phil to make it 2 in a row.
Just based on a recent workout by Elm Drive, looks like she's back on the beam. She went back east, had a couple of runs at Keeneland and Churchill, and one of them was yielding ground. She didn't like good ground at Keeneland. I think she likes this, what we're watching right here. This was a breeze the other day, very firm ground, getting over the ground. Happy filly, ears are up, just breezing along, turned a very, very good time. 49-3, way out and towards the outside fence, and she's moving really, really well. Got the right style. She's got tactical speed. Doesn't need the lead. Can sit right off the pace and then blast home. And I think you're going to see the good version of Elm Drive. She's 5-2 in the morning line, and I think she's ready to bounce back.
She's taking a drop in class in here. I know she's going from Grade 3 company to a listed stakes, but just not even based on the names and the grades of the race. Look who the running lines are. She faced Roses for Deborah 2 starts back. Last time it was Overcharge, who's that Louisiana-bred freak wind machine. So her last 2 in the Giants Causeway and the Unbridled Sydney, those 2 races in Kentucky were against serious Distaff Turf Sprinters. Nobody else in this field kind of scares you away in the Daisy Cutter, Jeff. I mean, it's a solid field, but there are no Roses for Deborah or Overcharge close. I mean, either one of those horses would be 2 to 5 in this spot.
Yeah, Elm Drive has shown she can act pretty close to the elite. None of these others really want to do that. There's some nice horses in here. Staying Scams, a nice hard-knocking allowance, now a stake filly. Connie Swingle, who's a really nice horse, another one of D'Amato's. I've watched her train. Now, we have not seen her since October of 2022.
Yeah.
She was in good form then. I think she might be a race away, just, looking at her.
Mm-hmm.
She does not have a history of running well fresh. She has a history of bracing herself into shape. I think Connie Swingle is using this as a springboard to, bigger and better things maybe. But I think this is the kind of race Elm Drive's supposed to win. So that's why I'm going to go there.
Let's move to race number 8 on the card. You can look at a daily double, races 7 to 8, back-to-back stakes on the card at Del Mar. It's the San Diego Handicap, Grade 2, $300,000 prep towards the Pacific Classic coming up in late August. San Diego Handicap, by name and by conditions, is a true handicap race. Assigned weights from the racing office. Only a spread of 6 pounds in here again, 118 to 124. Arabian Night is the high weight because he won last year's Pacific Classic as a 3-year-old. We haven't seen him since the Breeders' Cup Classic, where he ran a better than expected 4th, beating just 2 lengths on the lead the whole way. Really good effort that day from Arabian Night. What do you make of his return spot? 1 mile and a 16th, a very achievable distance. You'd like to see a race or 2 in a horse by now when you're getting to late July of the season, but this is a good spot for a comeback race. I think 1 mile and a 16th is something that's really achievable for a horse of this quality, in Arabian Night.
And he's been training for a while now. He probably was ready to run maybe even a month ago. But I don't think Bob wanted to ship him out. And so he kept him in training. I mean, he's had some practice races in the morning. That's a good filly he's working with in Hope Road. And he's Arabian Night is on the inside. And you can see him. He's not really being asked much. Neither is the filly. But they still go well, 47-3. This is actually what you want to see. You don't need to hone on too much. But he still looks like he's eager. He's well within himself. He's going to maintain the edge to the wire. Now they're going to chirp to him. They want him to gallop out, which Bob does a lot. I wouldn't put too much stock into the fact that he's being asked here, because when you switch him off at the top of the stretch, it's hard to re-break them again. But he had to get reminded, the work isn't really done. I know you think it is, but we want you to gallop out of the 3/4 pole. And he does that very nicely. So he's fit, he's sharp. Obviously, we know he likes to track, having won the Pacific Classic, which, by the way, was a big race for him. I wasn't convinced he could go a mile and a quarter, but on a track he obviously likes, he was able to do that. Doesn't seem to be any evidence that he's not as good now as he was then. And he's only had the 5 starts. He's not like he's some over-race colt. He could have a really good second half of the year here. The pace situation here, unless they send Dr. Venkman, who doesn't always break all that well, I think Arabian Nights kind of dictating the race here, however he wants to do it. But again, there's no gamble here at 3 to 5 in the morning line. But what you do have is a chance to watch a colt that may have a very important say in the matter in the second half of the year in the older ranks. And we could use the help in that division, and he might be the one to contribute.
An X factor in here would be Express Train. I think this is a horse who in 2021 won the San Diego. 3 years later now at age 7, he's second off the layoff and sprint the route. This is an old school training move by John Sheriff's, an old school trainer. They came back in the Kona Gold, which is just let's get a little air in your lungs. Let's get back into it. And that was not an embarrassing effort, where he ran third behind the Chosen Vron and Happy Jack, return stakes winner. So Express Train with a decent return race. Now he gets out to the mile and a 16th. He's good at Del Mar, 3 for 6 lifetime. He's 7 years old. I know he's starting to get it long in the tooth, but he's got a bullet workout at Santa Anita on July 13th. He's got a local run over the track in the morning on July 21st. I'm a little interested in Express Train in this particular spot. I don't know if he's going to win, but I won't be surprised if he's got a little bit of a punch still left in him.
Well, you know what? He came back in a sprint. He's not a sprinter. I think it was just one of these let's give him a race thing. And he was outside, and he made this run from the 3/8 pole to the quarter pole like he might even win the race. And that was a part of the race where they were going 21-4, 44-1. So he's making that move right into the teeth of a blazing second quarter. And then, but he didn't quit. He stayed on. I mean, I figured that would kind of sap him, but he was third. The Chosen Vron, Happy Jack, they're in the Bing Crosby. Not a sprinter, good race for him. Obviously a solid, healthy work pattern since. Again, over a track that he's won 3 out of 6. I mean, that's got to be part of the equation as well. The only thing is, if the pace is slow, Arabian Night, and then nobody goes to challenge him, which is to say, if Dr. Venkman doesn't challenge him, then it's going to be hard for him. But if you're looking to play the race and you don't want to take a short price on Arabian Night, I guess Express Train is the logical runner-up if you're playing this race. It doesn't always work out that way, but I think he's going to run big, and big might not be good enough because Arabian Night might be really, really good.
Right. That just might be the exacta, which you end up having to default to. To the 10th race we go at Del Mar, the featured Grade 1, $400,000 Harry Lillis Bing Crosby Stakes. I had to look it up. Bing is not his real name. It's Harry Lillis Crosby. So, but it sounds better. Bing is just great, right? And Sing and Bing all rhymes together. You can't rhyme a whole lot with Harry Lillis Crosby. So we're sticking with Bing, Jeff, but this is a great race, all kidding aside. You've got the defending champion here, the Chosen Ron, trying to become the 5th horse ever to win this race back-to-back. It dates back to the 1940s. So they've been running this race for, 80 years almost, and only 4 horses have won it back-to-back. The Chosen Vron will try to do so, but it is going to be a tall task in here. As good as he is, 18 for 23 lifetime, he feels vulnerable in here to me, and I might be one of his biggest fans out there. I picked him in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. I liked him so much. That was his only loss in his last 14 starts. He's won 13 of his last 14, but this race feels tough. It feels like there are some opportunities to possibly beat him in here. Straight No Chaser is back on his best. He was absolutely brilliant at times last year. You've got a horse like Close the Game Sugar coming west, coming off a win in the Kelly's Landing and the Aristides at Churchill Downs. And Happy Jack, I know he ran second to the Chosen Vron last time out for 2 starts back in the Kona Gold Stakes. But the last race for Happy Jack, I know you want to show this to the fans. He was absolutely sensational. Let's take a look at his win last out in the Triple Bend for trainer Doug O'Neill, and then we'll come back and get your thoughts on the Bing Crosby.
Dr. Venkman is called on now along the inside of Tahoe Sunrise. Big City Lights outside of them. Happy Jack means business. He sprints clear coming to the 8th pole. Has a 3-length lead while hugging the rail. Dr. Venkman and Big City Lights are second and third, and no match for Happy Jack, who ran them off their feet, streaking home, romping home, in fact. Over 5 lengths for Happy Jack. He takes the triple bend in style. Dr. Venkman and Big City Lights.
Left the gallop out there for you to see. He was finished strong through the wire. That was 7/8 of a mile. So if Happy Jack can sprint with the sprint types at 6 furlongs, he's going to be in high gear still through the wire, Jeff.
And he's trained really, really well since in the interim. This was the plan. That was June 1st for about 2 months later, but training great. You'll notice he didn't change leads. He never changes leads. Don't worry about it. They've even given up even trying. Doesn't matter. He gets from point A to point B on the same lead and doesn't affect him. He's backing up to 6 furlongs, but there's enough pace in this race. Any race that has straight no chaser in it is going to have enough pace for you. Now, you mentioned that you may not have gotten a great vibe about the Chosen Vaughn, and I looked at the form, and he was 5 cents on the dollar in his most recent start against, that was Calbreds. He was 1-5 when he beat Happy Jack, and yet I made him 6-5 on the morning line for a couple of reasons. Number one, this is a really tough race with some very sharp horses, including Happy Jack. The other thing is the Chosen Vaughn, if you look at his work pattern, he very rarely works fast. But he always does it into the bridle. He always works like, man, he goes in 47, he could go in 45. You just see it. He's like a powder keg, Well, I've watched him work since his last race back in May, and he hadn't looked that way. I'm sorry. I wish I could. I mean, I love the horse. I'll be out there cheering and rooting for him like crazy. I don't care about the gamble or anything like that. I want him to win. But he doesn't look as sharp as he normally does. Now, maybe that's just him at age 7 or whatever he is. He's 6, figuring out this is just the morning I don't have to put out. They never really ask him, so I can't say that he's being asked at all. He's not. He doesn't take a whole lot to get fit. I just wanted to see him finish like this, and he's kind of not doing it. So, I mean, it may not matter, but if you're taking a short price, you don't need to be asking that question,
Right.
I like the outside draw here, and he should be able to settle in right behind the leaders. He won't be in front. He'll be sitting in the second flight. Chosen Ron will probably get, a similar trip that he's gotten before, where he sits like 2-3 lengths off the lead and makes his move at the 3/8 pole. I imagine that's what's going to happen here. But if he's not 100%, he could get beat, and that's and the way Happy Jack's been training, and now that they figured out he's a 1-turn horse. Did you know that Happy Jack in his last race at Triple Bend earned a 105 that buyer number, and that's faster. That's a bigger number than the Chosen Run has ever earned in his life. So,
and it looked like it. I mean, we watched the video of that. That looked like an absolutely breakout performance. That was a career best for Happy Jack to the eye, to the number, any way that you want to slice it. We've got Jackstown in this race. We haven't mentioned him, for Bob Baffert, 2-for-2 lifetime off a 2-year layoff. He was a debut winner during the summer meet of 2022 at Del Mar, winning that day, and then came back 2 years later at Santa Anita on June 14th to win his second career start. He's run a 95 buyer last time. He'll step up in class here, but he gets Juan Hernandez for Baffert. What do you make of Jackstown on the big class hike here against some of the better sprinters?
I mean, he's outside, which is good. He showed last time he could sit right off the leaders and make a run, but that field he beat is nowhere near what this is, and this is a rather significant race in class. I mean, I like him. I'm kind of surprised that they're asking. It seems like they're skipping a couple of steps with him. He spent all this time getting him ready to run off a long layoff. He finally makes it to the post, and he wins nicely. But this group's for real. This is a Breeders' Cup level type of race. I thought maybe they would kind of build up into that, but I believe this might. I'm not sure if this is a win in your end. I think it is.
It is. Yeah.
Maybe that's the reason why they're taking a shot. And, finding out now he's training well. He's not training like Happy Jack is. I can tell you that. And so I'm not really. I mean, if he wins and beats this field, I tip my hat to him. too many good horses in this race. You mentioned the close the game Sugar. He's the one who beat Skelly 2 races back. Happy Jackie got into the Chosen Ron. Anarchist is on the rail, and he did not run well in his comeback, but he ran very well on this track last year. Right. And then Straight No Chaser, who is very, very fast, and they're going to have to catch him. This is a killer race. Let's face it. So,
if Inside Speed continues as it has for the first 3 days of the racing meet, and by Saturday's 10th race, you're still seeing more Inside Speed, you've got to move Straight No Chaser up. I mean, he's going to be the horse to catch. He's in the 3 path. He's probably faster than See Through It for sure, and probably faster than Anarchist out of the gate for sure. So he clears those 2, gets over to the fence, and if that's playing well, he's going to be tough to catch under Antonio Fresu. So we've already given you 2 or 3 different options that this race could turn out. Then it's not a tap-in putt here for the Chosen Front. If you're playing multi-race wagers, I think you've got to use a couple in here to have confidence in getting through the Bing Crosby.
And by the way, Straight No Chaser made the lead in his last start, the Run Happy, and his comeback, and he stumbled so badly at the start he was eliminated, and he still made the lead. So that's how quick he is. So come and catch him.
Want to mention that also this weekend, the Retama Park card on Saturday night includes the First Bet Retama Park Derby, a $215,000 race, 350 yards, 4 to 3-year-olds in the quarter horse game. You can meet the contenders for that one through our blog section at expressbet.com and news.first.com. We'll also have some selections from the local quarter horse handicappers from Retama posted a little bit later this weekend. So Saturday night, the First Bet Retama Park Derby, be sure to check that out. And with First Bet tonight and tomorrow, the stakes races on the Friday and Saturday night cards at Retama have a $10 money back special. That means on your win bets up to $10, if your win bet finishes second or third, you'll get your money back. So that's Retama Park Friday night and Saturday night. Saturday featuring the First Bet Retama Park Derby and race 10. Those $10 money back specials on the stakes races. Big day for harness handicappers as well. The Adios at the Meadows on Saturday. A bunch of guaranteed pools, multiple stakes throughout the day. Check out Al Samaglia's blog for all that. And on Sunday, it'll be the race of the week for us. It's the DeFrancis Dash from Laurel Park. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Horseplayer Now. You see it there at the bottom of the screen, the Twitter handle. I'll be doing some live tweeting from Laurel Park on Saturday, going down there. Just not a business trip, more of a fun trip, but I'll be sending some pictures and thoughts from checking horses out in the paddock and such, including the DeFrancis Dash, which features Sibelius, a horse who won the Grade 1, Dubai Golden Shaheen, a good-looking field in there with Dean Delivers as well, the $150,000 DeFrancis Dash Sunday from Laurel. That's our Express Bet race of the week, and you can get my written analysis for that on the websites First Bet and Express Bet. So, Jeff, big weekend, Del Mar, week number 2. I know you're excited for that, and maybe we get some clarity in the 3-year-old division. Is it Fierceness or Sierra Leone for the second half, or are they all chasing door knock? We're going to find out.
Yeah. Well, again, it's good racing on both coasts around the country, as you usually get this time of the year. Somebody's running a big race sometime, somewhere, and we'll continue on and maybe hopefully make some money.
Jeff and I will be back on Tuesday on the It's Official podcast to recap all the events of the weekend with our 5 hot topics across horse racing. Be sure to join us for that. In the meantime, have a great weekend. Good luck at the races.